What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Dave B. You're watching DaveBeyondTV, where we go beyond the everyday bullshit that people be consuming on a day-to-day basis. And today we breaking down some astrology. Ooh, sorry, tapping the mic. So for the most part, we got the moon in Capricorn and we got the sun in Libra. Now, I didn't do a video or a live on the moon in Sag, you know what I'm saying? My fault. But for the most part, I talked a little bit about it. I really didn't even really touch into the points on that last video I dropped, but for the most part, I'm going to clear it up as far as the type of energies. Well, you know, when energies pass, I look at it like we already experienced it, but a lot of what you could take away from that, what you could utilize for this next phase going into the moon in Capricorn is, you know, whenever the moon passes through Sagittarius, it's a time for us to connect to our philosophy, our spirituality, our palate for growth, our taste for growth, you know what I'm saying, or our hunger for growth. So a lot of what we needed to do needed to look like expansion through the way we choose to relate, different relationships. This was an opportunity for those different things to open up new either ideas and concepts for us, or open up new pathways for you to approach whatever goal you're in the pursuit of. Because one thing about how I like to talk about astrology, you know, astrology, of course, like on this channel, we understand it's a tool. So, you know, the act of living, you're either living a life trying to get somewhere, right? This it's kind of different for everybody, right? But for the most part, you're either trying to get somewhere, you're dealing with where you're at, or you find yourself going falling behind. And falling behind is an act of kind of either people are self-sabotaging or they're choosing to neglect, procrastinate, or not do anything about the things that they need to take on as a responsibility. Because one thing you got to understand, that life in general, how they say life is not easy. Life is a everyday battle. Life is an uphill battle. It's something that every day you have to engage with. If you're not actively living, moving forward, then in some way you're standing still. But in standing still, it's kind of like how retrogrades play out, where it's actually not that the planet is retrograding, but it's that it's stationary, it's not moving, and everything else is. You know, just how even, you know, they tell you that the earth move, how the earth is constantly rotating. So for you to stand still, you're still somewhat in motion. But you know, when it comes to life itself, if you're not actively living, if you're not getting up every day and looking at a new day as an opportunity to expand yourself, then in some way you're moving backwards, unless you're doing the other part that I say, which is mundane or being stationary. That is a form of living in which, you know, it's just about maintaining. But the act of maintaining is similar to even driving. To drive, right? Say you're driving on the highway, high speed, right? Highways are designed to be, you know, not many changes necessarily um, when you're driving, but there's miniature changes, subtle changes you have to do with the steering wheel in order to remain on course, on path. And that's the same thing with life. It's like you might be going through a certain situation, and we all go through each one during different phases of our life. And just because you're maybe going through a phase in which you're going backwards, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Sometimes we have to do that in order for life to show us, for us to see ourselves what is necessary for the next move. But like I was talking about, the form of living a mundane life or doing things mundane, this is just simple things that you're doing that it might be all you can do to just keep whatever situation or circumstance you got going for yourself at the current moment going. Sometimes that's necessary in life. It's all different ways that we, you know, we have to be omnidirectional. We have to know how to tap into each one. If I gotta rise above something, if I gotta go below, if I gotta go behind me, if I gotta go left field, if I gotta be righteous about something, you know, all of these things are for you at your disposal to utilize. You know what I'm saying? That's what God did. Therefore, that's what you, as a piece of all possibilities, have the ability to do to get where you're going. You know, and everybody's going somewhere, even if that somewhere is unknown to you, or if you try to neglect a pathway for yourself. Because even a person who chooses to not do anything with their life, let's say you are a person who wants to, I like to see I tend to look at these people as people who feel as though they can outsmart life. These are the people who choose like the atheist path and be like, in a way they feel, you know, so they feel like they can cheat life by not engaging with it. You know, these are the people who will claim up and down that they don't have a purpose, and will even advocate that, you know, no one has a purpose and things like that. And, you know, again, I feel you. If you don't know what your purpose is, and even in today's time, a lot of times people equate purpose with fame And that's the wrong perspective as well, because it ain't got nothing to do with being famous or being a celebrity. Purpose is about what you choose to do with your time here as a spirit in a body. That's completely unrelated to what you choose to you know what ends up happening as far as you being an influencer, you being well known. All of that has to do more so with charisma and timing, and again, that's a career path, that's a choice. A lot of times I feel like that's one of the downfalls of today's time, is that everyone feels as though they can't be themselves without cutting on the camera and going viral and stuff like that. So try not to even fall for that trick, because I feel like it's a hard time for people who might look around and see everyone else aspiring for those things, but they might actually want to just live a simple, quiet life. But they feel like the pressure of today's time, they got to have some kind of social media following, or they got to cut a camera on just for them to live their day to day. And those who, you're wise enough to know that you ain't got to do that. You know what I'm saying? But if you didn't know, that's just me telling you and reminding you that, hey, there's many different ways to live out purpose, and your purpose might just be you being a good person, might just be you being a good neighbor. It might just be you loving your family, loving the people who love you, you know what I'm saying? Or just loving yourself. You might be here for a solo mission, and your whole purpose is to just live a good life that you're satisfied with. That's honestly what the point is anyway. It's just some people are more satisfied with helping others. Some people say, hey man, look, I want to live what's satisfactory to me. And if that looks like you in a dark room with a bunch of paintings scattered around you and no one knows you but you know yourself, that's all that matters. But getting into what I was saying about the moon transition that we just left with the moon in Sagittarius, that was a chance for us to expand on how our relationship with ourselves first, and then also our relationships with others. So that could look in many different ways. Um, the moon was making some kind of, it wasn't really making too many crazy alignments. The biggest alignment it was really making was the square with Saturn and Pisces, which is learning more about the reality that you're trying to build, or learning more about escapism. So this could be a time where you could be lying to yourself, to be honest with you. The past couple of days, you could have been lying to yourself if you were looking at it. If you've been allowing the desire for escapism, which is really just triggered by fear, or sometimes we get fatigued by thinking about all the things that our path might potentially ask of us. And so you cheat yourself the experience and the gratification of a long-term investment for a quick fix, which is like those little desires that you might settle for just to satisfy, again, just to satiate the body. A lot of times you got to realize those things is the equivalent of eating chips when you're hungry. It's not really going to, it can fill you up, but it's not going to satisfy and nourish you in the ways that actual meal with protein, starch, and I ain't gonna get into that, but it's not going to satisfy you as a gourmet meal steak would, you know what I'm saying, or if you know what I'm saying, whatever gourmet meal, full course meal, I should say, it's not going to satisfy you like that. It's something processed quick with a bunch of salt and sugar and mixed in it. That's not going to do it for you. But if you've been living a life, especially during this time, that you're trying to settle for that, then you might again expand on the delusion, expand on escapism. Whenever we're in the moon, is we experience the moon in Sag, it's the chance for us to escape something too. We feel like we're in a cage. So let's, in this particular transit has been pretty difficult, even though you might look at Libra and be like, oh, that's like a sociable energy and we're supposed to be outside having fun. You got to understand the context that Libra is currently in. Libra, the sun and Mercury is there, right? So it's a lot of our what's on our mind and what we're choosing to do. Those things are in alignment. So we're well aware of how to navigate, but the issue comes in with the inconjunctions. It's a misunderstanding with the moon, not the moon, but Saturn and Pisces in general. So there's a misunderstanding about what's even going on in reality. You could look outside, nothing that was put in place for the last what uh 20 what 20 I want to say 26 years, because it's like what we're in 2024. So everything that we've known for the last 26 years have been completely, are now proven to be obsolete. And I'm saying 26 as far as just my lifespan. If you're older than that, you just subtract 4 from that basically. And that's going to give you the number of how many years of society being one way is now completely obliterated. You know what I'm saying? And we have to come up with a whole new plan, a whole new game plan. And amidst that is the interpersonal issues that we might be facing, difficulties in relationships, issues that we're realizing as far regarding our mental health and what we aren't quite prepared to deal with, or things that we've been putting off dealing with that are now we're seeing affecting us in an emotional way. And when we are tapped into what is affecting us emotionally, subconsciously we start to see how our mentalities are modeled after that mental illness. So there's a lot of things at play in general just about what's going on in life that doesn't make this time easy to relate. The last thing on your mind right now, honestly, is probably a relationship or relating in a way that is actually truly balanced. Everybody is instead kind of forced to do some kind of inverted form of relating where we're trying to make sure that what we're getting is appropriate and satisfactory. And that's kind of the thing. We're kind of in a time where the Libra energy somewhat has to be inverted. And a lot of that is due to the North Node being opposite this energy, the North Node being in Aries. So it's basically essential for our spiritual path that we cater more so to who we are as an individual, which is why during the new moon I was explaining how important it was to tap into Aries energy and be aware of our self value, how we value ourselves and what's important to us on an individual one-on-one level, and taking that into account first and foremost. Then once we're satisfied with kind of who we are in our own identity, being able to engage more effectively in these relationships and actually provide a balance that might not look balanced to everybody, but it's almost like this is a time you got to be fair to yourself first, and then you can. It's like on a plane when they be like when the little oxygen mask drop down, they said help yourself and then help others. You know what I'm saying? Get your mask right first and then help others. That's unfortunate, and I can't even say unfortunately, because one thing about life, it does come down to a form of like, it is what it is. It is what it is, but that doesn't limit you to what it is. You have the potential to create something better, but you have to put in that work. You have to look at your life and what's going on and make the most out of what you know to be true. And then again, the one of the things we have to be cool with is the South Node being in Libra, is we have to be cool with things that aren't aligned with us and don't choose us to fall off. You know what I'm saying? If it's not going to choose you, then you have no business wasting time trying to make it work or make it fit or balance or harmonize with it. If it doesn't fit the harmony, if it's not in the same frequency, if the vibration can't get right, then by all means don't be too afraid or attached to what you expect and what you know what I'm saying, what might be just comfortable to you for the sake of that. And what I mean by that is more so, don't try to don't go broke choosing things that don't choose you, basically, is the thing. Now, if the other thing, whether it be a person, place, or thing, is choosing you, like as in it might not be perfect, but it's still choosing you, it's still, and choosing you means it's not perfect, but it can work. And it's showing promise and it's showing commitment, loyalty, dedication, alignment in some form of fashion. Like, for instance, you might have something going on like a business partner and things like that. They're not perfect. They don't know everything. They can't fill in every gap, but they are ready and willing to be a part of what you got going on, and they're willing to contribute, and they got something going on, and it might just be enough. That's it's right now we have to, I'm not going to say to settle, but we have to acknowledge where what we have is just what we have, and you have to make a decision. If you choose it and it's choosing you, then therefore, hey, that's enough to get started. And this is just a phase. Things don't last, like nothing lasts forever, but we have to understand that this is a transitional phase in the world, let alone your life, with Saturn going retrograde, and then we just had Jupiter go retrograde. So our experiences in general are taking a back seat. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even realize we've been dealing with a Jupiter shadow period for a certain amount of time. And that's probably why it seems like things are, your goals and everything is just out of reach. It's like you're extending your hand and you're almost there. You can basically in your mind feel it at the tip of your fingers, but it just is just quite just right there out of reach. And that's what happens. That's what's happening with a lot of our lives and our goals right now. Is things are just out of reach, and it can be extremely frustrating. But you have to be okay with understanding that it doesn't mean that it's unattainable. It just means not right now. And not right now doesn't mean give up, doesn't mean go slower, doesn't mean blame this, blame that, doesn't mean beat yourself up. It means, hey, not right now. So I might need to just gather myself again and let's extend for it one more time when we have more, when we have a better chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say you was trying to reach the top shelf of a cabinet and you reach up the highest you can and it's just not quite. You might have to go and get a stool or something like that. You might have to, you know what I'm saying? You might have to do something that's going to stretch and get you to that next level. And part of that is what the internal work is here for us to do right now, So let's talk a little bit about Jupiter going retrograde. I don't probably going to make a separate live or video for it, but for the most part, it's nothing to be too. I can't say don't be worried about it, and I'm not a fear monger, so I'm just going to say understand it like this, right? It's our experiences, our wisdom, our knowledge of things, our understanding of our experiences, the meanings and reasonings that we extract from our experiences. These things are having to be reanalyzed. So you might have a moral change of heart, like your morality might change or your belief system behind whatever house you have Gemini at is going to kind of alter, is going to change a little bit. And that energy is trining with the sun. So, right now it's almost like you can't rely on luck right now. You have to kind of put your feet to the ground, put your hands in the dirt, and you got to get it. You know what I'm saying? You got to create your own luck out of things. You know what I'm saying? I look at luck anyway as a form of preparation um, to be able to be in a position to materialize when your manifestations come to fruition, because you're constantly manifesting based upon what's on your mind. So whatever goal you have, it's on the way, but you need to have the awareness and the ability. You have to have the awareness to see it and the ability to achieve it. So that's a form of not wasting time. Just because you're manifesting something doesn't mean you need to be sitting on your ass twiddling your thumbs. You need to be actively doing what it is that you're bring it into your life so that you're prepared to handle it. And so you have the awareness of it when you see it, because it might be the smallest thing that's a true opportunity gateway path to where you want to go. But if you're too full of yourself, too in your ego, too in your pride, and you're too lazy in general, that plays out as kind of one of the forms of God slapping you in the face, because it'll be right there in front of you, something that you can jump into that might not look like the most glamorous thing to do, because your goal is always so glamorous. The goal, the dream is always so beautiful. Venus exaltation, Pisces, it's like it's always so beautiful what we dream of, but oftentimes we miss those unattractive things that actually make or break our ability to get to that beautiful goal. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not to be what's a good example of that? I mean, it's kind of like coal, pressure making diamonds and shit like that. Because what makes a diamond? Coal, I think. You know, what is it? Yeah, coal makes diamonds and shit like that. I don't know. I was about to Google it, but y'all get what I'm saying. It's like you didn't even realize that instead of just waiting for a diamond, you could have took that little nasty piece of coal and you could have applied certain pressure and effort and intention into it to actually craft it into diamonds. And one thing you got to be understanding, you have to understand about life is that that's how it actually works. You were sold a fan. I think everyone was sold a fairy tale that I think it's conditioning through religion, through education and things like that. Nobody was really. A lot of people forget that that's a virtue or a principle that people overlook. They don't understand that nothing in life comes easy, and that everything it takes a certain amount of effort. You have to craft the life you want for yourself, especially in today's time. At one point in time, you might have been able to get away with being passive and choosing. And I think that's just a sign of the times. You know what I'm saying? That was age of Pisces type things. You could go with the flow and make it make sense. And it was cool. You could live in your fantasy world, your fantasy land. But man, today's time, no, look, We getting more into Aquarian type mentalities where you gotta boss up on some level. It's Saturn influence. You gotta make and you gotta be you the whole way through. You can't just go with someone else's flow. You can't just abide by someone else's program. Which is why I also believe that this is a time where we see forms of rebellion. Everybody kind of coming to the same conclusion of what the fuck is going on in this country or in around the world, because it's not just America, you know what I'm saying? And shout out to everybody watching from different continents and different, of different nationalities and stuff. Like, it's a beautiful thing we have with the internet to be able to connect worldwide. And we need to take as much advantage of that right now, while technology permits it, because there's going to come a time where these different things are going to be restricted. We even saw on Twitter how what Brazil was banned from it. And just think about that. Like, imagine if you was an individual in one of these countries and you had business going on across the world and you couldn't use one of the most popular, prominent social media sites in order to connect to who you were, connected with. It just keeps it and that's one example in a small form. But think about you. I mean, me. Imagine if they just cut a switch off and it was like, oh yeah, we can't use. I mean, they do it right now with content creators. They'll turn your channel off. All of a sudden you are restricted. All of a sudden you can't post. All of a sudden your video is banned in certain countries. I mean, this is a matter of pressing a couple buttons and completely cutting communication connection to a group of people that you might have something very important to tell them. That's way too much control in the hands of those who um, have proven themselves to not really give a fuck about the common person. So you can start to, again, even like the video I made way back a couple months ago about the AT&T thing, and that's with phones, what I'm saying, actual general communication. And then eventually we're moving into a crypto, money being, online. So your whole financial situation completely obsolete just due to the fact of you being wrapped up in a system, which is why the emphasis for community and being able to do things with people in real life is now more than ever important, essential, prominent. It's like we have to we have to consider these things. We it's a whole new game, what I'm saying? Gratefully, I'm in a path where I already seen it, so I'm already putting things in place to be prepared for when certain things like that happen. And hopefully y'all peep game too. And those who I'm associated with, y'all know what's going on. Um, we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna do what it do, and we're gonna continue to build and make sure that we're in a position to again start to put the pieces together to build our own system where it doesn't have to be so reliant on other people who, like I said before, have proven that they are not in the same even mentality world as we are. They're building a world. The world they built, we see it burning. And you know, personally, it's like you participate because that's what's going on right now, and that's what we got to do. But for the most part, we already know how we feel about the system, how it works. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a race thing. It's way beyond race. It's way beyond that. You know what I'm saying? It's a matter of, spirit. It's a spiritual thing. It's this mentalities coming together. It's beyond race. It's beyond religion. All of that. It's about spirits and bodies, and using our minds to create something that works for us as far as a system. And all the system is a way in which we can live life that, you know, again, y'all get what I'm saying. That deserves its own separate discussion in real life. But getting back to some of these energies, speaking of that, so we're leaving a time of being more mystified in the expansion energy. And for those who've been planting good seeds, that probably was a time that you got a quick breather. uh a time where that Sagittarius energy could have offered you more optimistic views about what you're relating to, more optimistic ways to go about life and whatever you got going on, things that kind of might have opened the door for you to have different conversations that can help you progress according to your spiritual path and whatever goals you have in your life. That's the positive form of this energy. So, if that was the case, then shout out to you. I'm saying that's confirmation and synchronicity for you to know, okay, something is working. Even if it's not all together, even if everything isn't perfect, something is working. And you getting the idea of a step out of whatever turmoil you've been going through, that in and of itself is a blessing. So, appreciate that for what it is. It's like, man, be grateful. be grateful that you at least got your own mind at this time where the majority of the world is just caught up by distractions. This is prime time for election season. This shit's happening next month. So whatever is going on right now, a lot of people are wrapped up. I hear people talking about trying to vote this year, and I'm like, yo, are you serious? You've been watching this shit? I mean, it's a comedy show, man. It's all entertainment. But that's besides the fact, it just, again, it shows you how the levels of distraction, everything going on legally with entertainers and celebrities and stuff like that, all of that, it really means nothing. How is your life? Everybody is addicted to these social media sites because it gets them off of how depressing their own life is, and maybe just how much work is necessary for them to get themselves into a better position. So you have to really make decisions that's correlated to you getting to where you need to go. And again, when I'm saying that, don't feel pressure just because you get online. I'll be on TikTok. Everybody be on these sites way too longer than they probably should be. But it's not about trying to beat yourself up for doing what's available, and it's not about feeling guilty about enjoying some of the just, again, there's things in this world that we do that ain't necessarily perfect in the eyes of all being a spiritual being and stuff like that. But it's not even about that. It's about being you. It's about being you. And it's like when you know what you're doing and where you're at, you move and behave in a way that's appropriate. You know what I'm saying? When you understand the context of something, you understand it and you can communicate and navigate through it. That's really what it's about. All the things we learn about spirituality is just to remind you and remind you what you was here for, and to keep you in a certain space that allows you to go. It's like reminders to give you clear representations of what you were distracted by, and show you like, hey, this is where you're trying to go. It's hard to explain, but spirituality is not about trying to resist your, like, even you got to understand that these are those principles that you can easily get locked into, like how Buddhist principles would be like, oh, happiness is to need nothing and desire nothing. And it's like, that sounds good, but again, it's just like every other religion where it sounds good, but that's just one individual's perspective on how to approach life. Spirituality is about crafting your own way, your own compass, and letting that guide you. You could take principles from these many religions, but look at them as just books. How you would read a book, you're reading someone's thought process, someone's mind and perspective on something, but that's not law. You always have to look at your own self and compare and contrast and decide for yourself what works for you and what might not have been written for you, what doesn't resonate, and let that go. You know what I'm saying? And how they say on them tarot readers, stuff like that, take what resonate and leave what don't. You know what I'm saying? But you got to kind of look at that with how you live your life and stuff like that, because you know again, I'm the type of person, I'm like, look, there's things that I like, nice things, you know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, spirituality all day, but I don't want to be so spiritual that I got to live in a box. You feel me? Like, I feel as though like I could be spiritual and still understand how the world works, navigate the world in a way that, keeps me, again, it keeps me from being distracted because I know what's going on. I know the context. I know the circumstance. I know what these things are. I know what a job is, the meaning of a job, and I know how to, and therefore I know how to utilize it for my benefit. And that's what spirituality helps with. How do we utilize everything in the world? Because it's the same thing the people in position did. They looked at this shit and they said, how can we formulate this in a way, structure it, create systems, reality that benefits us the most? And that's why being too faithful to the system will never work for you. But if you know how to utilize the system, you can manipulate it in a way that will work for you. You feel me? But it's when people don't know what's going on and get trapped and distracted into certain things in society, in the world, in the, they get trapped in a 9 to 5 job because they don't have anything to take the money they make from it and invest it in. Instead, they settle for what I was just explaining earlier in the video, those small, very, deteriorating pleasures that, instant gratification things like, instead of taking that money and distribute it in a way that's going to help you pay off your debt, and maybe invest into a company you trying to start up, or something you trying to do. Even if you just want to invest it into good experiences, a lot of people, instead of even doing simply that, they spend it on a bottle for the weekend. They spend it on, whatever gets them to that level. A lot of people even make money. They spend it on, meaningless sex with a escort or something like that, where again, you could be instead investing into a meaningful experience, a relationship, and stuff like that. Look, everybody got their vices, everybody got their problems, everybody got their circumstances. It's not about me telling you what's right or wrong. Again, it really don't matter what you do. There's a few things on that list though that you don't need to be doing. The things that come from trauma, that look like a perversion of the different pleasures that we can get involved in, and different things we can do here. Again, when people go too far, that's a whole different category. But what I'm saying is, for the most part, with the and this is why morality even plays a part. I think that Jupiter going retrograde is a re-examining of the world's morality, which is kind of interesting. You know what I'm saying? I think the whole world has to look at themselves and decide, like, wait, what are we even fucking doing on a moral level? Where is all our moral compasses directing towards? The course of this country and where it's going. It's evident that whoever the fuck is steering don't got the right perspective on right and wrong in general. You know what I'm saying? They doing some shit that, again, they got people going crazy out here. But again, it's that should prove to you that it ain't even about, it's not about morality to them. But that's not, again, what's universal law isn't necessarily man's law. You got to know the difference between what's universal natural law versus what's fabricated man-made law. And you know what I'm saying? But that's, again, a different conversation, man. I gotta write down these things. I still am gonna get y'all that other live I said I was gonna do too. Law versus versus no, man-made. Yeah. But in whatever you're doing right now too, you gotta lock in with it. We are at 16 degrees. The sun is at 16 degrees Libra. So we're looking at moving into the third decan, which is going to be Gemini. So there's going to be a lot more versatility. We're going to have to be quick on our feet. Right now, you need to be getting secure on what it is your idea is that you're trying to relate. So being fixated on that, keep sticking to your key points right now, whatever that means to you, stick to your key points. So you understand something based upon what you've been relating to yourself about, that you're in the form of, it's kind of shaping and influencing the way you choose to engage with others, who you engage with. Um, Keep that, stick to that right now, but it's going to come a time where it's going to be about being more versatile. So you're going to have to be able to switch it up. So right now it's more so like, I would look at it more so as a learning phase. We got to square with, uh, Mars. So we're learning a lot of things regarding our passions and what we're actually developing a will to do based upon what we care about. We're learning about that and how to relate that. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of part that's contributing to like the fixated nature of the second decan of Libra. The influence being Saturnian with Aquarius is like, okay, there's a seriousness we need to be. We kind of got to keep it business right now with ourselves, and we got to cut through all the bullshit that's allowing us to be distracted and unbalanced. Because that's the thing, when you're unbalanced in your own life, it's coming from too much concentration on either, it could be thoughts in general or a thought, and feelings in general or a feeling. But whatever it is, our thoughts and feelings aren't in alignment. And when those things aren't happening, we can't make sense of things. When we can't make sense of things, it's increasingly difficult to communicate, articulate, and relate what it is that's going on in our world to the outside world. And without that ability, we lack the ability to help others understand us. When people say communication is key, that's why, because communication is the bridge between my mind and your mind. So if the bridge is broken, you'll never understand me, I'll never understand you, unless we'll just be doing random things. Like if you were to think two people standing on two ends of a bridge and they're trying to shout and do weird gestures to communicate and stuff like that, because communication is still happening, but there's no understanding. And understanding is one of the key components that helps that allows harmony to exist, that allows balance to exist, that allows teamwork to exist. And we need that right now, especially right now. Um, Anybody trying to do stuff on their own, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It might look like it's going to work, but you're soon going to realize that even you at your most prominent, powerful, do not have the wingspan to reach the areas that you need to be able to reach at the times you need to reach them. You know, a team is basically essential right now. And see, the thing about it is right now you might get away. Like I said, it'll look like you being on some independent shit is gonna work, but it's gonna come time that you're gonna hit a wall. Either you're gonna be exhausted or you're not, you're gonna lack the skill or the awareness to be able to tap into a certain space in a timely manner. And that's where Aquarius and Aries differ, and why it's kind of important for you to understand to kind of keep yourself in check. Remember, this is we in the time where it's more about intellect. You could be as passionate as you want, but it won't matter if you cannot articulate the passion. If you can't articulate it in a way that people can understand it, pick it up, and transfer that information to others, then you might, again, you fall into a category of it's just not gonna, it might not cut it. It might not, you know, again, I'm just I'm just a piece of all possibilities. So look, I'm the last person to tell somebody else that something that they doing not possible. But I'm just gonna say it's gonna be difficult based upon the energy influences going on and what people are more so leaning towards as far as a global energy. Um, hey, but you know what I'm saying? I love to be the catalyst of somebody proving me wrong. I have no stake in the game. You know, what you're able to do and you're capable of, I have I put no limitations on that. You know what I'm saying? That's my thing. I don't put no limitations on nobody. Everybody's capable of what they capable of. And I can only observe the sky, myself, and what I see outside of me. And you know, that's all I look at. So again, if you're looking at this like, hey, this nigga don't know what he's talking about. Look, hey, you probably right. You know what I'm saying? Prove me wrong or do your thing. You know, do your thing. Right now, look, if you being innovative, anything can take off right now. If you being yourself, anything can take off right now. So again, if you might find yourself being like, I'm not a person who relate, you know what I'm saying? That hey, figure out a way you can do what you do and let's see if it works. You know what I'm saying? I'm an advocate for people making new ways because that's what God wants anyway. God want to do some new shit. God want to break through and develop and expand the universe type shit. So I creating and also destroying. And we're in a time right now where things are being destroyed. So you just need to hold tight to where you at and figure out what you're building amongst all the chaos. Because again, we're going through a time of the world being in chaos. You need to start to look at how you can create order even amongst that chaos without allowing it to affect you in ways that prevent you from just doing what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? It's the world is yours. You know what I'm saying? You can do whatever you want to do if your mind is in it and you got the right consistency, focus, and discipline and discernment throughout it. Um, Discipline is a key word right now, but I want to take a minute to go back to what I was saying about Jupiter retrograde in Gemini. Jupiter is not where it normally is, so it being retrograde, I kind of see it as more beneficial because it's kind of forcing the energy to take a minute and do something else, reanalyze, rethink. And right now, there's been a lot of rapid fire information. Like I said, the age of bad advice. Right now is going to be a time where it's probably going to be a moment where a lot of moments popping up where people are going to be able to spot where they were led astray by what somebody else was kicking as bad game. Right now, it's probably going to be a lot of exposing of poor intellect, people just saying things would sound good on the podcast, but not really anything intelligent coming out their mouth. Hopefully, this is a lot of people go out of business with podcasts that don't need to be on these podcasts telling people nothing. Hopefully that's the case, you know what I'm saying? Because yeah, it's just a lot of bad advice, bad information being exchanged. And when I say bad, we know there's nothing bad or good, but see, bad information, I believe that bad information is any information that's too biased to really it's maybe not bad information, but bad teachers. I say that. Not so it may be bad at the thing about it, it's not about the bad advice, it's just they're bad teachers because teaching is an art. It's an art form. You have to know how to kind of do what the ninth house and Sag does. You have to know how to be broad, but at the same time with that broadness still, it's like it's not just about being broad, it's about being broad but also having wisdom to distribute within that broadness. Like you have to know how to come at people where they're at, help them see something that they might not have seen. And it's not about telling them how to do it, but it's about leading them to come to their own conclusion based upon what you're able to spark in them. It's an art form. Like it's an art form. Those who got it. But we live in a day and age where you got a lot of people trying to go on these podcasts and go viral. And the thing is, like the thing about TikTok, right? TikTok is interesting because before TikTok, people approach social media in a way of entertainment. But now we're in this. TikTok is a platform that's known for more so teaching you something than, because TikTok is different from Vine. It started as like a similar thing to Vine, but the different for the young audience who don't know what Vine is was like this little social media, it's kind of like a social media site. Not really. It's more so like a website or an app where it'll be kind of like Instagram Reel style, where it'll be a bunch of short form videos that were, trying to be as funny as possible. There's like 15 seconds, and I think they tried to expand it to like a minute or something like that. But eventually it died out, and Instagram kind of been the home for that. And then TikTok came on the scene, and it was like the dances, the funny videos. But then at some point, people realized that, oh, this could be like informational. And people started making, again, whenever people start making money on an app, you're going to get a bunch of bozos trying to, gravitate to the platform, trying to get their quick buck. And that's exactly what you got. So you got people who feel like, oh, I could talk about this. And the thing about it is they might not actually have the wisdom or the awareness. Because as a teacher, you got to know you hold a lot of power. You can influence somebody to do something very destructive in the world. If you're not careful, you can influence people right off a cliff to destroy their own life. If what you're saying, again, like preachers basically are like leading you to the slaughter. If what they're, because a preacher sit there and tell you about the word, but then go home and do everything they told you not to do. So you listening blindly to somebody who basically leading you to slaughter, because whatever they're teaching is part of their philosophy, maybe a piece of what they see and what they make sense out of the word. You don't know where that wisdom coming from until you understand their character, their character. And if they don't have the right morality, it's easy to manipulate a person based upon emotions and being passionate. If I talk like I'm confident, 98% of people would just believe me, whether what I'm saying got any real relevance or not. And we see that every day. People getting fooled and things like that. Like that kid. It was a kid, a fucking kid, bro. I don't even know what the dude was, like 18, but he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a licensed doctor. I'm a this." And he was just talking confident, and then he got caught. It was like, "Wait a minute, you have no credentials, and you trying to give medical advice? Like, what's going on?" And that's the type of age we live in, because see, before the internet, there was barriers of entry that people had to go through. You could call it gatekeeping, but it's not. I think people are overusing the word gatekeeping, but there's barriers of entry that you have to have a certain level of credentials to access and pass. So, the internet broke down a lot of barriers of entry, which is beneficial for people in the world, who really are, who deserve to be in those positions, but it's also harmful for those who are able to false, you know, basically pretend, fake it till they make it. And the thing about it is, when you fake it till you make it, you got to remember to make it. You know what I'm saying? You got to remember to beat it. It's like I don't. That's why I don't advocate for fake it till you make it. You got to be it to see it. So if you're not taking the time to become what it is you're trying to reach or attain, then you're gonna be either unprepared when it does come to you, like I was saying, unaware of how it can come to you, or when or you'll be in a continuous loop of kind of lying to yourself that you're gonna be there one day and you'll never get there. So you got to be it to see it, because if you're not being it, you're not even going to be in the right space for it to come to you. It's weird how the world works like that, but it's quite simple. How life works like that, but it's quite simple. But yeah. So Jupiter going retrograde, it's going to be a time where a lot of people might find themselves on the other end of like, wait a minute, that don't make sense. you might have to clarify certain things too. But it's really a time in order to create your own luck. It's just you have to be willing to take on new information and apply it. Right now it's like that reanalyzing of your own morality. You might have to remind yourself why you're doing things and what the meaning and reasoning for you being invested in whatever information you're getting. Um, you might have to reanalyze these and revisit these things in order for it to make more sense in your life. If you're blindly going, again, you might have been following some kind of blueprint or some kind of morality that has proven itself to not really get you anywhere. So right now, don't be afraid to switch things up. Um, Especially, just your experiences in general. What I'm saying? A lot of changes, you might have to pivot on things, but it's a form of learning though, still learning. But you might have to relearn, you might have to learn something new, or you might have to relearn what you thought you knew based upon new information, new things coming to light. I only best thing I could say or suggest is just to be resilient. Don't be resistant. You could be resistant to things to change. Being resistant to change in the fall time, you out your mind. You might as well just accept the fact that you could wake up tomorrow and everything be completely opposite. Everything be, and don't freak out, but just be patient. Be patient and walk and take the time to really just analyze what's going on, but understand that you're only going to know if you go through it. I think that Jupiter going retrograde is kind of like that. It's like we've been learning so much. Like I said before, Jupiter in Gemini, it's opposite to where it's home. So a lot of Jupiter and Gemini energy is over analyzing, over communicating when you don't know what you've never been through that, but you're communicating about it and trying to give somebody advice. It flips it when it's in retrograde. It slows it down. So it's more like, well, now the information that you was getting, it's almost like you could sit there all day at a computer screen trying to learn from that same information, and it's not going to work until you do the opposite. Get up and go through it and experience it. And so this is where the test of time kind of plays out, where a lot of people who were living through Jupiter, Gemini, and just getting all information, learning everything online, and now they think they are expert. They're going to be put in a position where they actually have to go through the experience. And that's going to be the truth teller of whether or not, you know, what you was learning actually is able to be applied as wisdom, or were you being a fool. And don't be mad at if you're gonna be mad at anybody, be mad at yourself if you end up being a fool. But again, be resilient instead of resistant, because the second you turn up and try to argue off of that, you could create mistakes based upon the sextile with Chiron. You can create transformative, not transformative circumstances. You could create it'll be a learning process. And you see how it kind of link up with Saturn. It's a learning process more so. If you take that learning process with resilience, right? It's graceful. It's like, okay, you can adapt reality to your experience and take what you learn, but swap out what's necessary with the wisdom you got from going through it. And you can look at that as, it was difficult, but I'm grateful. I fell on my ass, but I'm grateful because now I know the missing pieces and what actually this is about, to be able to apply it to reality. And that's where your luck can be crafted and manifested as, whew, yeah, I took a L. I thought this was one way and it wasn't, but I was resilient and it turned out to be the perfect match to help me create the reality I'm trying to create. Or you could be resistant. If you're resistant, you're not going to be able to pick up the pieces through your experiences that help you fix and adjust to things going on and what reality is. So this is you having to learn from the hardship of whatever delusion you're forcing yourself further into by not applying real wisdom through the experience. And again, that's the opportunity to make mistakes. And then not only just mistakes, but mistakes that force you into your spiritual path in a way that is highly uncomfortable. That's what the North Node is. The North Node is discomfort, but it's going to take, instead of it being on the side of being beneficial for you, hardship that led to you being resilient, hardship that led to you growing and learning more and adapting to the new circumstance. Instead, it's going to be you being resistant, you developing hardship that actually just leads to you having to take 10 steps back to be able to observe properly and then being like, oh, that's what I was doing wrong. Again, God is great. It's still going to lead you on that path, but one of them is a lot more smooth. The other one might set you back a couple years. And you ain't got, again, time is money. You know what I'm saying? Time is money. You ain't got too much time on your hands. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, got the Zodiac on here. But yeah, time is money. So, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to St. Uno because I see he had a live that said that, astrology is time, time is money. I got to check out that live. Y'all do too. But, key point, you know what I'm saying? Right there. It's like you don't got no time to waste. Life is finite. You know what I'm saying? All this time we got is borrowed. So we got to make use of it. And I mean, hey, life is life. So what you got to go through, like I said before, it is what it is. But make it easier for yourself for a change by just peeping game and maybe moving a little smarter. Those who are younger got a little bit more space to prove me wrong. Like, you go ahead, do your thing. You know what I'm saying? Look, I love it. You know what I'm saying? For the young people coming up, younger than me, I'm young too. I would be forgetting this. You know what I'm saying? You be so comfortable saying, "Oh, But I gotta also acknowledge, I'm realizing there's people younger than me, way younger than me, 18, watching this, like that. I want to see something new from y'all. Like that's why I love collaborating with them because it's always I never put limitations on individuals. I'm like, look, I give everybody the space to be them, that grace. Be you. You know what I'm saying? So, that's a lot of what I want to do later on when I'm in positions to really offer opportunities to those who's coming up. That's what I want to be able to do. Like, hey, show me something new. Show the world, show God something new. You know what I'm saying? But that's what's going on with Jupiter in Gemini retrograde. Now the moon moving into Capricorn. Let me see. Is there anything else I wanted to say about that actually? But I don't believe so. Because those are the major alignments that's being hit. I mean, yeah. Right now, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that later because that's the main alignment that's being hit. Um, when it comes to the moon now, the moon being in Capricorn. So this is a serious vibe that creates a square with the sun. More serious. We also have to be aware that we're gonna reach a crossover point with Pluto at the end of the moon. So we always know that's a emotional transformation that we're gonna have to go through. That's gonna either benefit the way we relate, or it's gonna make it more difficult to relate. And this is the square point of the moon cycle where we went through the spring. Now it's the summertime of this moon cycle because moon cycles is cut up into four quadrants: some spring, summer, right? Just like the seasons, spring, summer, and then we hit the full moon, and then we go fall, and then we go to the winter. So birth, life, the fall of life, change, I should say, change, and then transformation, death. So we went through birth. So everything that we was doing from the last couple of moon transits was more so us experimenting with relationships, the way we relate, how we relate to ourselves. Now it's time to make a decision on how we actually going to get that, how that's going to look moving forward. So right now we need to take a more serious approach of who we're relating to, but also how we relate. Also with ourselves, we need to be more restrictive, a little more strict with how we choose to relate to ourselves, because right now more than ever we have to balance the resources we have. Like I said before, this is going to feel like we're in a scarce time, so it might feel like you might get people being a little bit more guarded. You know what I'm saying? People are realizing, oh, it actually is getting cold outside. It might not be cold every day, but y'all feel that breeze. You know what I'm saying? Because look, I'm in Georgia and shit like that. It be hot, right? Still, but every now and then, early in the morning, late at night, you feel that little breeze, and it's like, oh, it's getting cold. So that's kind of what the learning process, the square between the moon in Capricorn and the sun in Libra is going through. This is a form of serious relationships, or taking these things way more seriously, adding a little bit more restriction to what you relate to, as regards to, again, it could be anything. Um, anything really. You just got to be real with yourself enough to know what needs that restriction versus um, what doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Right now, it's a good time for delegating tasks. If you're a part of a team or something like that, you want to make sure that there's clarity, communication, and who's doing what, who's functioning on what, who's making sense out of what. Because being too caught up and not taking the time to really take these things seriously, it could, backfire on whatever y'all got going on. Same thing for actual relationships too. The moon in Capricorn is going to be sextiling Venus in Scorpio, so that's an opportunity for that on a love appreciation relationship end. This is you feeling comfortable based upon you either being able to trust who you're relating to on that level, and in a way that you could take them seriously or not. This might be a time where opportunity where you might start to see where really, I mean, it's more so positive though. It's more so positive, but it could be negative. But it's like the opportunity for you to feel comfortable to what you're relating to, person, place, or thing, what you're related to. But from the moon's perspective, you have to kind of dry up those feelings and be serious about it. From the Venus perspective, it's still in a fallen state, so it still could be relating an opportunity built on negative things. So let's say the relationship with yourself, for instance, right? This is you being very comfortable with the relationship you got with certain maybe habits, addictions, and things like that. And again, that opportunity you're gonna have the opportunity to kind of sober up about it, take it more seriously, and you could choose to do what you know is the right thing to do, which is be more restrictive, dry about it, or you could choose to pretty much invest more into it. Because when we're dealing with eighth house, we're dealing with Scorpio, it's about investment, and the moon in Capricorn is all about investment too. It's about structure though, the structure. So the investment system, the system in which we invest in, or the thing that is the resources we actually expected to get from that investment. This is why Capricorns and Scorpios will link up in that kind of way. But still, you got to even keep in mind the modalities. One of them is fixed, and the other one is cardinal. The fixed might not always want to budge, and the cardinal might be too in and of itself to care about where the fixated nature is even coming from. So, it's like, you know what I'm saying? And that's more so of a synastry thing, but you could relate it to these planets too. The moon being in more needing to initiate. So there's a need that we have to initiate restriction. And if we do it, the positive aspect of doing this is going to be initiating restriction on things that we might be overindulging in based upon being too fixated in it. So there still might be things we got to let go. Ironically, with that Venus in Scorpio, it plays out of us needing to have a certain level of self-love, but that self-love needs to be, we have to be careful to not let it be overpowered by our grudges, not overpowered by our traumas, because our traumas is also what makes us cling to certain things to grant us comfort at times where we're uncomfortable, grant us clarity at times where we're unsure. You know what I'm saying? It's like that teddy bear that you had from when you was a little kid. Scorpios will have something like that, something that they keep on them, keep with them for years and years and years at a time, that they cling to whenever they, you know what I'm saying? And nobody might know about that, but you know, it's one of those things where we have to also make sure that we're making a more mature decision when it comes to what we might be attached to or what can make us feel more comfortable. But it's an opportunity to address these things. Now, on the negative end, it's the opportunity to even go harder, create structures that support our addictions, create structures that support our bad habits. You want to create structures that support better habits. And in order to get to that better habit, you might have to let go of something that you're overindulging in or something that's kind of occupying that space. And see, that has the potential for you to learn better ways on how to relate to yourself based upon you not having that thing you cling to as an addiction or instant gratification, right? It forces you to relate to other things that you're also interested in that actually are more prosperous or productive. So, that's the benefit of it. But negative, you could just be continue to support the wrong stuff, and then it'll make it harder for you to relate because you yourself are unbalanced based upon your overindulgence. So you being unbalanced, trying to engage in relationships, guess what? Those things are going to be unbalanced. You're going to depend on people for things that they're not responsible for providing you. when you're overly emotional, like basically your emotional happiness is now dependent on someone validating you and clapping for you. You're going to be looking for them to do that because you got something as a habit or something behind closed doors that's really eating you up, a grudge or whatever. You know what I'm saying? When you got to check yourself right now. You really got to check yourself for Libra season. Like Libra season to have you make an enemy out of somebody who, again, it never was their responsibility to make you happy. You are you. You got your own system and they got their own problems. You need to go within yourself and figure out how to make yourself satisfied, how to make yourself happy, how to do the things you need to do for you. That's the whole thing. Full moon in Aries is going to slap you upside the head because the whole thing about the full moon in Aries is how satisfied are you with yourself? If you're putting so much on others to perform for you, it doesn't matter who you are, you're always going to be unsatisfied. And that starts to be a burden on those who want to relate to you, but feel like it's not worth it, or feel like you're acting weird, or feel like they get weird vibes from you. And you be sitting there thinking you getting weird vibes from them because they not jumping up at their seat to do what you subconsciously trying to mind control, manipulate them to do. And it's really your fault. You know what I'm saying? So we also have to take a certain level of accountability right now with the moon in Capricorn. Hey, look, moon in Capricorn, we have to relate to what's real. We have to understand, like, oh, we have to relate to what's real. And just because because you don't know what's going on in another person's situation too. They might not be in the space to even be able to really do the things that you secretly want them or expect them to do to make you feel satisfied and whatever. And if you have no grace for that, then you could tarnish the relationship by, again, it's like the reality of it. And see, again, you could come to a conclusion that the reality of the relationship is just not what you want or not what you get in. And that could be something that you take and you use as new information to do what you need to do, especially the moon when it slides into Aquarius. It'll give you the gift of being able to now associate with things that you actually relate to. So right now it's kind of like one of those tipping points where you have to start to put restrictions on things you no longer want to relate to. So for instance, if that thing is not to your standard that you've been relating to as a person, place, or thing, this will be the time you realize that, you learn from that, and you're able to now deal with it, cut it off, or address it, communicate with it to let it know, hey, this, you're not cutting it. You know what I'm saying? Communicate with yourself to be like, yo, I can't keep doing that. That thing, that place, that person is not up to my standard. And that's where the moon passing through Pluto, emotional transformation, is gonna lead you right into the gift of being able to now associate with the things that you rather relate to. So, right, you get what I'm saying? So it's kind of it's not a terrible energy, but it might hit you kind of hard. It might be a little harsh at first. So you might just have to kind of hold tight and keep a clear head. Um, but yeah, the moon also is gonna be squaring Chiron, like we just said. So learning the mistake of uh I would say kind of learning the mistakes you made when you undervalued yourself, or when you was moving in a way that didn't you wasn't responsible. It's kind of it's learning from the times you went out on passion when you should have been more disciplined. So this is like a discipline transit. That's why I said it's the key word right now. It's like it's more of it's showing you discipline where you made mistakes, where you lack discipline. That's the learning process between the moon and Chiron. And that discipline is what's necessary in order to get to your spiritual path in a sufficient way so it can turn into an opportunity. So right now we got to be real with ourselves. Right now is a good little let me get my discipline up. But those who are unwilling to do that are going to make excuses and look at more ways that they could try to get over on other individuals. So you might overlook, you might not learn what you need to learn as far as having discipline, and you might just try to use people right now for your own selfish gain. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes that way, because when things shift and we're in a time where it's more about collaboration and communication, people are going to remember how you use them. So keep that in mind right now, and remember what we said in the beginning of this transit about how, relationships, everybody gonna want to jump into new collaborations and new teamwork and new this, but you're gonna realize halfway through that, oh shit, like we got the wrong intentions, that this person trying to manipulate me. This is one of those energies that refer back to that. And during the full moon, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these things be revealed, where because of your dissatisfaction with your individual individuality in yourself, you're gonna see, damn, this person was using me. Damn. And see, you might be on the other end and didn't mean to use them. It was just a mistake you made based upon having the wrong things on your mind and on your heart. So, because life gets it's like life gets complicated in that manner because the intentions do matter, but the actions also show you. You know what I'm saying? Like a person intentions matter, but actions always show you. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? You could be on the end of that and be like, damn, this person was using me. But you still, that's why, again, I give people the space to be themselves because it might not be something to take personal. So they wasn't using me because it was personal. It might have been something that they was going through that they couldn't see. Now you ain't got to do again, like do not be giving grace for everybody. Have your discernment. But I'm speaking for people who might be dealing with those who are genuine but still make mistakes. As we all make mistakes. And you might be in a position one day where you did something based upon your lack of awareness or lack of ability to see that hurt somebody else, and you will want the same grace given to you. So that's all I'm saying. But only apply that to people who actually care about you and you care about them and they actually choose you and you choose them, like people you choose to be within your life and things of that nature. And then again, the moon goes into well, yeah, but be here forever. What else? The moon's gonna be opposite Mars, so we might be feeling a little bit. You can feel unmotivated, because the moon is opposite where moon is where it falls at and Mars is where it falls at. So in a weird way, it's kind of like that thing where it's like two negatives make a positive type thing where it's like if you've been planting the right seeds, your Mars, your passions are motivated by what you care about, and what you care about should activate something in you that makes you either rise up to the occasion to provide balance for your responsibilities. So it's like your passions is in the space of what you care about. And right now the moon is in Capricorn. And the beneficial side of this is you being emotionally aware of the reality of your situation and the responsibilities that you're required to step up into the role of. And if you are on the positive side of energy, it looks like you providing balance because you're going to rise to the occasion. Okay, what I'm passionate about is what I care about, and I'm aware of the responsibilities and the role I got to play. So if you care about getting those passions met, you're going to rise up to the occasion and play that role. On the other end, though, tug of war, you can start to feel lazy if you haven't been doing, if you still don't know what you care about, or you're too lazy about what you care about, and you really don't have the drive to get it, the willpower to get it. That moon in Capricorn can make you feel extremely even more unmotivated because you realize, and again, this is a testament to whether or not you've been investing yourself in the right things. Because if you find that what you've been investing yourself is not for you, this could be extremely dissatisfactory, like extremely let down, not wanting to do nothing. And this could drive you even further into escapism. So just be aware of that, you know what I'm saying? But you're gonna feel pressure, but it's about how much you really care about it. And if you care about it, you need to understand that the proper thing to do is to rise to that occasion, play that role, and it will pay off. You got to believe that. You got to believe that. And again, that retrograde Jupiter, hopefully it reminds you of why the meanings and reasons why you even doing all this stuff. Like, it might be a misunderstanding right now, but understand that it's just a misunderstanding. And when it move into Aquarius, you might have a better perspective on it. You might have a conversation that'll re-enlighten you, reinvigorate you. But right now, you just kind of got to stay the course, stay on task, stay about the business. Um, yep, Moon sextile and Neptune again. Dreams. You seeing a realistic pathway for dreams potentially, or a realistic pathway of how to get your delusions to make sense. So be careful. Moon sextile and Saturn, opportunities to, again, same thing with reality. See the opportunities to make your dreams real or make your delusions real. So be careful, because again, you making your delusions real gonna look like some real manipulating, using people type shit, cutthroat business. Fuck them. I need to get my dream, my delusion met. But getting your dreams met is going to put you in a space where you start to see all the things in which you can improve on and which you need to now take precedent and position on, take power and control over, right? Because that emotional transformation that we go through at the end of this transit, it highly depends on your perspective that you take in this early phase. And yeah, last but not least, we got the moon squaring Mercury. So similar to what I was saying about the sun, but we're learning how to think about our responsibilities in a way that's balanced, harmonious, and relatable. But again, we might have to just deal with some of the harsh truths, but we can soften the blow by understanding why we're doing these things for the sake of balance, for the sake of harmony. We want our lives to harmonize with our pathway, with the people in it. We want to live good lives. So if that's the case, then it's going to take you making that happen, putting certain things in place, and not being on no bitch about it, man. Get up, boss up. You know what I'm saying? Boss up. Whenever the moon and cap, gotta boss up. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, hope that was helpful. Oh yeah, the moon trine Uranus. Almost forgot. Feeling comfortable with our uniqueness and using our uniqueness as a catapult to help us maintain a certain position, status, and what we need to do. So just keep that in mind. And also learning about our status in the social arena too. That's more of an external thing, but don't be so mindful about your status. It's more about, you know, your status will be proper if you do the inner work. That's what everybody got to realize. Whether your sun is in the 10th house, whether you're a Capricorn or got Capricorn in your sun, moon, ascendant, if you're concerned about status will always be a result of how much you invest in yourself. So keep that in mind. People who try to craft a status externally first without doing the inner work, you're always going to be exposed as a lame. You're always going to be a lame. It don't matter how much money, what position you in. We can always spot a lame. Don't be a lame. Much love. Catch you on the next one. Peace.